So, when you start a brand, generally speaking, the idea in hope is that it will grow quickly, that consumers will fall so in love with the taste, concept, and branding that it will just fly off shelves and retailers will clamor to get you in their stores. Despite these hopes and dreams, I'll be honest, it doesn't usually happen this way. But sometimes magic happens, your brand clicks with the shopper and takes off in ways you could never imagine. The first of our entrepreneurial speakers, Gail Becker, has done just this. Spotting a home cooking trend gaining momentum, Gail launched one of the first frozen cauliflower pizza companies and grew it into a multi-million-dollar company in under a year. She's done this by not only adhering to traditional rules of the industry, but also while breaking a few. Here to chat with us about how to not only grow fast, but also maintain a strong brand while doing so, please welcome Gail.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much to Carol and to Project NOSH for having me here today and to share the unique Caulipower story. To be perfectly honest, less than 3 years ago, the only thing I ever did with food was buy it, cook it, and eat it. Although I did spend many happy summers on my grandfather's farm, dairy farm in California, where we each had a pet cow to care for. But today I'm really honored to be part of this Better For You community that's really just trying to improve the food that people eat. So you could sort of ask, how did I get here? Well, it really boils down to one word, and that word is impatience. These are my sons. I'm the mom of 2 boys with celiac disease, and they were diagnosed at such a young age that there was no gluten-free food in the store. And so what it did is it gave me a really good perch from which to watch the gluten-free industry evolve. And what I began to notice over the years was how much stuff the industry was adding to gluten-free food. More fat, sugar, salt, and calories, and less nutrients. So like a lot of other people, I waited for the industry to do something. But I kind of got tired of waiting, and so thanks to this little pink house in the heart of San Francisco, I took a big bet. This house belonged to my father, who passed away at the age of 87 a few years ago. Now, when he came to this country, he came with no money, no family. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he was drafted to fight in the Korean War. When the war was over, the boat dropped him off, literally, in San Francisco, and he never left, and he built a small business there. When he passed away, something inside me really changed, and I realized that I wanted and needed to follow in his entrepreneurial footsteps. And so I sold that little pink house, and I put every last cent into a company that I called Caulipower. I know it sounds kind of crazy now, doesn't it? So you could say I took a giant and scary jump from a very comfortable position at the world's largest communications agency to, well, bet it all on a vegetable. And now, 2 years later, after launch, here's our family, and we are in 22,000 stores, including all divisions of Kroger, Safeway, Target, Whole Foods, Sprouts, CVS, and close to 4,000 Walmart stores. We've recently also added 2 new products, our tortillas and our sweet potatoes, both of which are rapidly gaining distribution and early sales are looking great. We also have an exciting new product coming out just in time for fancy food. So, how did we do it? Not surprisingly, we followed some golden rules. One, most importantly, we had a great product. 2, we really leveraged our first-to-market entrance. But we also knew that a product won't grow fast or survive the competition unless it was a really trusted brand. So because of my 16 years working in marketing and communications, I knew that we had to make it an earned brand. I knew that it had to be that we had to use influence that we really actually earned from our fan base. And so that's precisely what we did. Ed, could you play the video? I've always wanted to say that. There you go.
Hi guys, it's Anthony. I'm here with Caulipower.
They did not pay me to say this, but I'm obsessed with that Cauliflower pizza.
This is Business Rockstars. I'm Brittany Lehman, and my guest today is Gail Becker, CEO and...
She is the founder of Caulipower, an alternative to traditional pizza.
She developed a pizza, which is now one of the nation's top-selling frozen pizzas.
After the break, a recipe that could change the way you eat pizza forever.
The crust had to get crispy. If a crust isn't crispy, it's not pizza.
Magic to turn cauliflower into pizza. Do you use magic to turn it into pizza?
I don't know any other way to come out of that other than OMG. It has been quite a ride, and as people who know me often hear me say, when I started, my hair was straight. So what this animation shows is just some of the milestones that we've hit along the last 28 months, including where we celebrated 2 birthdays. It all began in 30 Whole Foods markets in the SOPAC region. And then obviously we grew from there. And my thanks to any and all of you who are represented on this slide who really helped us get to where we are. Here's another way to illustrate. Oh, let me just go back for 1 second. I think I left out a pretty important note. We have trailing 12-month revenue of $85 million. We are profitable, and we are expected to exceed $100 million in 2019. Here's another way to say it. 28 months ago, does anyone have an idea of how many frozen pizzas there are in America? Okay, it's a good thing I didn't either, because there are 500 of them, approximately. And when we launched 28 months ago, we were number 434. And then we grew to 31st about 24 months ago. And then 52 weeks ago, number 11. 24 weeks ago, we broke into the top 10 and became the 9th best-selling pizza. And today, we are the number 8 best-selling frozen pizza in the country. And we've done all that while sticking really core to our mission and always believing that that we should, at our very core, make nutritious foods accessible to all. And with our partner OneSun, we've actually been able to do just that. In 3 years, we'll be able to give, over the 3-year period, $1 million to help build teaching gardens in underserved schools across the country and teaching kids about the importance of proper nutrition. So with Caulipower, we obviously believe that you can do good by doing well, and here's just a little example of that, particularly of our market share. First, we created the market for cauliflower crust pizza. Then we became America's favorite gluten-free pizza. Today, we are the #1 better-for-you pizza. And in just over 2 years, we have gained about 2% of the U.S. pizza market. And I'm really thrilled that in an industry that I have come to care about so much and admire, that Cauliflower was able to contribute 54.2% of growth in the category. We also had timing on our side. Timing, as they say, is everything. Most of you know a lot of the points that you see here, but we are right in the middle of what was a perfect storm, with millennials' new buying patterns, a newfound love of frozen, a wide open pathway for vegetables, particularly our very favorite one. So I talked about some of the rules that we followed. We also broke quite a few. Here's just some of the ones that people told us not to do. Don't start in frozen. Don't go into more than one category. And don't go too early into Walmart. And for my friends from Walmart who are here, including the buyer who first took a bet on Caulipower very early on, I'd like to just say that they've been fantastic partners for this entrepreneurial brand. And if there's other entrepreneurs in the audience who are considering partnering with Walmart, I highly, highly encourage you to do so. I'd like to thank my dad, because unknowingly, he taught me everything I needed to know about building a business while I rang the cash register in his store every Saturday starting at 5 years old. I would get paid $20 plus lunch, and it was really where I discovered this love for business. Now, Dad built his business with no capital injection, obviously, but that's a lot harder to do today. And I would really be remiss if I stood up here and had this audience and didn't remind folks that out of all the VC dollars given today, only 2% goes to female entrepreneurs. 2%. And that's despite having a greater return on investment than their male counterparts. So I do hope that if Caulipower shows anything, it's a reminder that female entrepreneurs can be a pretty good bet. Woo! And finally, to all of you in the industry, I just wanted to thank you for welcoming me in, really on little more than a crazy idea and a big bet. I can't think of any other industry in this country where that would even be possible. So we are on our journey to try and vegetarianize the food that we eat, and we certainly hope you'll join us. Thank you.
So we're going to come have a seat on the nice white sofas.
I love seats. That's great.
I think you have one more slide. I think it's my favorite one.
Oh, what?
I think you're, yeah, there we go.
There we go. Okay.
Who doesn't love a good unicorn? Gail, I feel you kind of alluded to this, that you didn't have a traditional background in CPG. And that you kind of had spent some time in communications and PR. So tell us about where you started off and what you did, and how that, if you can go a little further into how that contributed to how you built the brand around Caulipower.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think I really meant what I said at the end, that I don't think there's a lot of other industries where you could come with knowledge in sort of one area and build it into a brand. For me, it was communications and marketing, because that's what I did. I didn't know anything about food, but I did know to hire a lot of really smart people who did, and I have the best team in the business. But I also knew how to build a brand, and I'd been giving clients advice for many years, and I decided to follow some of it myself. And I think that's one of the great things about being a young brand, is that you can take risks, and we took a lot of them. We really earned the trust of our fan base, and it grew from there.
Now, when you started the company, was there something you thought would be really important and you had to nail when it came to the brand, that now you look back and you're like, why did I invest so much effort into thinking about this?
Oh my God, that is a great question and a very long list. I would say probably, maybe even on a, 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 on a bigger level, I thought it was really important to be bigger than I was. So I would go into these retailers and I would and that's a really, hefty frozen aisle. The companies that are represented in that aisle are very large. And so I sort of thought that I had to pretend to be bigger than we were. And what I realized is that there were so many cheerleaders or people who were fighting, who were cheering on David instead of Goliath, and who were helping me along the way and giving me advice. And it was something I never expected. And ultimately, what I learned was to celebrate our size, to celebrate the fact that we were a young brand and still sort of learning along the way and taking that advice. So I would say that was probably the biggest surprise learning to me.
Was there anything, I mean, you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but thinking about your brand and your packaging specifically, was there anything that, jumped out that it really connected with consumers in the packaging or the branding or your messaging online that you didn't realize they would just love immediately?
It's so funny that you say that, because I realized, how everyone has a 3 a.m. thought? My 3 a.m. thought was I left something off the rules that we broke. And the rules that we broke was packaging, because really no one had done packaging like this before. And I thought, well, let's make a package that people can take a picture of, and let's say something to the audience, let's say something to the fans, because in that freezer aisle, it's hard to see. So I really wanted to stand out. So we put big black lettering on the front of our package, which probably most design people wouldn't tell you to do, particularly the way we did it. But we did it anyway, and I'm really glad I did, because I think it helped to get us that extra layer of attention.
So why did you do it? I mean, besides the fact it looked different, did you think about Instagram? Did you think about, how it would look on Pinterest or visually? What motivated you to break that rule?
I thought it would be really great for people to be able to take a picture of the packaging, because it was a new product, because it was something that people had to learn. So there were two audiences, really. There were all the people who were making cauliflower crust pizzas at home and knew that it was already a thing, and then there were even hundreds of thousands of more people who said, cauliflower, what? Wait, I don't understand. Is the cauliflower on the pizza? It's in the crust? What did you do? And so I thought, well, let me at least get them to look at the box. Let me at least grab their attention. Since I can't stand in every aisle at every grocery store, although people who know me know that I would, I figured let the box do it for me.
And, yes, you have a good brand, but it also tastes really good, in my opinion. So how much can branding make up for taste? Like, you are dealing with kind of originally a special diet group, gluten-free or grain-free. Can you have a product that has great branding but just doesn't hit on the taste level? What's the balance between the two?
No, and no. And it's such an important question. And so many times, again, newbie to the industry, but so many times I see that people celebrate that it's free of this and free of that and free of that. And that's fantastic and super important. But at the end of the day, it has to taste good. And for me, look, I did it because my boys had celiac, but we don't even market this as a gluten-free pizza. We market it as a great tasting, better for you pizza that happens to be gluten-free. And I think oftentimes people forget about the importance of taste. I was very comfortable in corporate America. I had a pretty good job, and I wasn't going to leave it unless I felt that I could make a difference. And the only way that I felt that I could make a difference was that if I could make a product that was good enough for kids to eat. And if kids wouldn't eat it, I wasn't interested in making it. And that, I think, is, that's my favorite thing about the brand, is that everybody can eat the same thing, no matter what your reason for eating it is, no matter what your diet is, or what your taste profile is. Everybody can, or if you eat gluten, everybody can share from the same plate. And that's perfect.
Now, from when you started the company to now, there's other entrants, there's private label products. Mm-hmm. How has that changed how you approach your branding, how you approach, talking to consumers and communicating? Because there's a lot to a certain extent, a lot less education around cauliflower
yeah,
pizza
today
in a
there
lot
is,
of markets.
yeah.
But it also means, you have to say why you're different, how you're special.
Yeah.
How has that shifted?
It's interesting. We have, look, I'd be lying if I said we certainly haven't celebrated some of the things that make our product unique. For instance, the whole thing about the crust getting crispy, because lots of crusts don't, and ours does, and we celebrate that fact. But having said that, we really look forward and don't look behind us. And the thing is that there's so much room to grow, and that there's enough of business and people and mouths for everybody. And I love when I see competition in the field, because I think, oh, that's great. That's more people who are going to know about the product. What I don't like is when there's been some entrants who've come out with an inferior product, because then I hear a lot, oh, I tried that. I tried cauliflower crust pizza from another brand. I didn't like it. And then you have to go through the whole thing. No, but you didn't try this one. And so, I like growing the category, and that's where I try and focus.
And thinking forward to the future, you did launch a second brand, which you kind of alluded to last year, I think it was. Can you talk us through why you felt the need to launch sort of a parent brand?
Yeah, we call it a mother brand.
Okay,
I like that. The reason we did actually is because we were hearing from a lot of the folks who buy our product that they wanted us to do more. When are you going to do this? And how can you do this? And what other vegetables can you do? And blah, blah. And I wasn't going to do anything that I didn't feel like we had permission from our fan base to do. But when I started to hear from people, and we hear so much every week, cards, letters, emails, phone calls, I started putting it all together and realized I think we have the permission to do this. And that's why we launched Vegelutionary Foods. Because what do? We revolutionize vegetables. And it was really simple, and it gives us permission, and sweet potato toast is our first non-cauliflower product. But now the field is wide open, as they say.
What's the balance going to be going forward between the sub-brand names and kind of this parent company? Do you want people to know Vegelutionary Foods? How much attention and where do you decide to devote your efforts branding-wise?
I think that Vegelutionary Foods, I sort of equate to, how much consumers know or don't know P&G, right? They know the product names. They don't really know Procter & Gamble and who makes what and what have you. And I think that will ultimately be the same for Vegelutionary Foods. Although we do want to be a platform that we advocate for people, and then we advocate for people's better foods. So ultimately, look, Caulipower is a beloved brand, which is humbling to even say, and it's not going anywhere, and that will always be our hero. Pizza will always be our hero product, and Caulipower will always be the hero brand, and that will be why and how people know and love us.
Does that, hurt the other brands like sweet potato toast that everybody, sorry, that one's a mouthful, I always stumble on it. Does it hurt them and make it harder for them to succeed that you have this like flagship brand and you're the pizza brand?
Yeah, I don't think so because, on our sweet potatoes packaging, we do say brought to you by the folks who brought you Caulipower, because we want we want people to know that they're sister products. No, I think it will only help that brand, and I think as time goes on and more come out, that they'll all live together very happily under the Vegelutionary umbrella.
We've talked a lot about how you got the consumer's attention. One of the questions we got from the audience was that you have phenomenal distribution. So how did you go about getting the attention of buyers and retailers? This is clearly an easy answer.
It's funny. I told the story of having my father sort of be the impetus for this business. And I realized everything I did, I wanted to do in his name and in the name of what he built and how he did it. And so I was pretty relentless, like I think any entrepreneur is. But I was relentless, and I personally went on every single sales call. I had salespeople too, but I personally went on I do go a lot on them today, much to the chagrin of my sales team, I think. But I established personal relationships with a lot of retailers because we're in it together, you know, and I love having that. I love having that partnership with the retailer. And I listen to them because they know much more about the business than I do. I am the first to say what I don't know. And early on, it was really hard because there's a lot of acronyms in this business, and people would have entire conversations, and I would leave and I would say, "What did they say?" Yeah, I think that establishing a personal relationship and really engaging them in the journey has been great and been really fulfilling for me as friends. There are many that I consider friends.
I remember last year we had Real Good Food speak at NOSH, and they kind of talked about the fact that, like you, they have this large following online, and that helped pull them into retailers. Did your consumer demand and love for the brand also help with that process?
You know, it's a really good question. Yes, the media attention that we got certainly helped, and of course I shared that with our retailers, and 100%. But they also knew that I was putting real marketing dollars behind it, which was also really important for them to know, and I also very frequently shared and still share today. I want the retailers to know that I'm not just putting the product in there and then sort of going like this. There's a lot more that can be done, you know, helping the product succeed in retail than just putting promo dollars behind it. And quite frankly, I think it's our responsibility as the brand to make sure that we do that. So our marketing never stops. In fact, it just increases tenfold.
Now, speaking of putting dollars behind things, you do have some investors that you've brought into the business. How important was their understanding of the brand and their, you know, I could see some investors looking at that packaging and being like, okay, we're going to change this and this and this. And, you know, how did you kind of suss out that they understood where you were going and understood the brand and the aesthetic and everything else you wanted to move forward with?
It's such a great question, Carol, because that's a difficult time because let me tell you, as the mother of two boys, it's much easier to give birth to children than to a food product. I will just say that. And so when you are holding this box in front of you and your third child, it's really hard to have someone who wasn't there from the beginning sort of come in, and there were, you know, certainly some that just wasn't a right chemistry fit or what have you. But to be really honest with you, you know, early on, because we grew so fast, to the name of the session, because we grew so fast, we needed investors who were going to take a bet on us. And I'm really proud that ours certainly did. And they did take a bet on us. And they let us do what we needed to do in order to what we thought was the best way to build the brand and to take risks. And we did take a lot of them, and not all of them have paid off, of course not, but a lot has. And it hasn't stopped being that way. Mostly from an investor, though, I needed food experience because, again, I think as an entrepreneur, knowing what you don't know is the most important thing that you can be aware of. And I really did know that I had a lot to learn about the food industry. But that's kind of the reason I left corporate America, because I stopped learning. And, you know, the day you stop learning is the day you need to leave. And this business, as crazy as it is, I learn something new every day, and it's kind of the best part.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us and helping us continue our learning today. We're going to go to a break now and come back at 11:30. For those of you that are watching remotely, stay tuned. We've got our live stream studio downstairs with some of these exclusive industry experts that are in the room. And then everyone who's here, we'll see you back at 11:30. Thanks so much.
Thank you.